Hey everybody, this is Colin G. Murphy and welcome to show 62 of Colin Podcasting About Real Estate. Hope you guys are doing great. All is well from the podcast booth in sunny Madrid, Spain. As you might know, I moved here during the summer of 2021 and I gotta say, so far so good. It's all going well. Real estate, I have to say, is still booming, guys, whether that's Spain, Ireland, England, America. It's just booming. I mean, most of our listeners will probably be most concerned about the US real estate market. Some of you might be wondering, is it a time to wait until prices fall? Is it a bad time to start buying? And my advice is that if you're trying to wait until the market turns, you could be waiting quite a long time. In my opinion, there's generally never a bad time to take action in real estate. You need to do your homework, you need to have a plan, you need to have goals, you need to have your reserves. But once all that stuff is in place, I think action is the way to go. Just waiting and waiting and waiting has rarely helped anybody that wants to achieve success in anything, and that applies to real estate investing as much as anything else. So I'm staying busy on all fronts. I still keep my eye on the horizon, on the spider web, whatever you want to call it, but I'm renovating 4 houses at the moment. I've got 15 lots, vacant lots under contract in my pipeline. I've ramped up my marketing considerably for the next kind of 6-7 months. I'm trying to get more deals. I've hired an assistant. I've been creating new seller finance notes, so I'm busy on a lot of fronts. And like I said, the market is showing no signs of slowing down. It's a great time to be involved in real estate, whether you're in it full time, or whether you're just got a regular job and you're looking to put your savings to work, or whether you want a hobby that might earn you an extra 10,000 a year or 50,000 a year or whatever it might be. There's room in there. I mean, you can really, if you're dedicated enough, if you have a plan, if you're speaking to the right people, you really can achieve whatever you put your mind to. You don't need to be, some sort of a genius IQ to do it. Definitely not. And, my guest today is as good and as an inspiring an example as I can think of if you're looking for that extra push to get you started on a road you've been thinking about taking for a long time. And the person I'm talking to today is called Rod Khleif. He's a very well-known guy. He's got a great podcast that's had over 10 million downloads, so one of the top real estate shows out there. But more importantly, he's an owner of multiple real estate businesses. Literally has set up dozens of businesses in the last 30 years. He's owned thousands of properties. He came from humble beginnings when he moved from Holland to the US. I think as a 6 or 7-year-old boy. He had some tough times growing up, but he had a series of spectacular real estate successes and also failures as an investor, including losing $50 million in 2008. And his story about how he bounced back from that is fantastic. He bounced back from that loss. He enjoyed further financial success. He had a newfound passion for giving back. He's helped tens of thousands of poor kids since then. And he just brought incredible energy to the conversation. I mean, I wish I had half this guy's energy. It's just amazing how much he brought. He brought a lot of value to the conversation. He had some great insights on topics as diverse as mindset, psychology, goal setting, recovering from setbacks, implementing systems, and just a lot of really valuable and actionable takeaways to anybody. I think no matter where you are in your cycle, no matter where you are location-wise, he's got a lot to offer. So I think you should dig in and get something out of this conversation, and if it inspired you, take some notes and implement them afterwards. It's one of those shows. But let's head on over and you can decide for yourself. Let's see what Rod has to say. Rod Khleif, it's such an honor to have you in the show. How are you doing today?
Well, it's very kind of you to say that. Thank you. I'm freaking awesome. Let's have some fun today. Let's add some value, brother.
Let's do it. Let's dive right in. So listen, what I'm really fascinated about, Rod, just tell us a little bit about your early days and where that well-known resilience and drive to succeed came from.
Oh man, you are a wordsmith. Thank you for the way you said that. Well, listen, let me go back because I think it'll lend some framework to what I think we'll enjoy talking about today. So I immigrated this country when I was 6 years old with my mother, Svantje, and my brother, Albert. I was born in the Netherlands, not too far from Ireland. And, I wouldn't choose windmills, and we ended up in Denver, Colorado. And when we first got here, this is 1966, we really struggled.
Right.
And in fact, my mom had to babysit kids so that we'd have enough money to eat. And I remember, eating expired food because it was cheaper. I remember drinking powdered milk with our cereal in the morning, which wasn't very tasty, by the way. And I remember wearing clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army all the way through junior high school until I lied about my age and got a job at Burger King so I could buy my own clothes and ultimately buy a car.
Wow.
Now, I'm sure you've got listeners that had it harder than I did or have had it harder in the past, maybe have it harder now, but I knew I wanted more. And like I said, thank God my mom had an incredible work ethic. So she babysat kids, but not only did she do that so she'd have enough money to eat, she actually invested with that money. So she invested in the stock market and made money. She also bought real estate. Well, the first house she bought was directly across the street from us when I was about 14, and she paid about $30,000 for it. And then when I was 17, she told me she'd made $20,000 in her sleep that had gone up in value that much. And I'm like, what? Screw college, Mom. I'm getting into real estate. So I got my real estate broker's license right when I turned 18, which you could do back then with education. I wasn't just an agent. I could have my own office. I was a broker.
You got to be an agent 2 years now for that before you get your brokers, right?
Right. Now they got smart. You need some experience now. But back then you could do it with education. So when I was 18, I was a broker. Well, my first year in real estate, I made about $8,000, maybe $10,000. My second year, maybe 10 to 12. But my third year, I made over
back then, though, right? You're talking about what, 70s, early 80s?
This is 1978. So 78, I made about 8 to 10. 79, I made about 10 to 12. But 80, I made over $100,000. Wow. So what happened between year 2 and year 3 that caused me to 10x my income? Well, what happened was I met a guy, actually dated his daughter, and I worked with him, that taught me about the importance of mindset and psychology. Okay. Since then, I've spent 20 years following Tony Robbins around the planet, who's the best in the world at it. Really, the bottom line is 80 to 90% of your success in anything is just that, your mindset and psychology. Only 10 to 20% is the mechanical information that both you and I teach. It's really the do and the keep doing. It's the pushing through fear. It's the pushing through limiting beliefs. It's getting uncomfortable to build what you want. And so, fast forward to today, I've owned a couple thousand houses that I've rented long-term in 3 states. I've owned, thousands of apartment units. In 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. And you're like, wow. And so was I. Wow. And I thought I was a freaking real estate god. Okay. I thought I could do no wrong. And you do the math on that, it's like $8,400 an hour or something like that. And of course I did. And my head got so big, I could barely fit it through a door. And when that happens, God or the universe will give you a nice little smack. Yes, well, that was 2008. I lost that 17 and a whole lot more. I lost $50 million in 2008 and 9. And so one of the things that I'm known for is talking about the mindset and the psychology it took that 50 million to lose in the first place. But then as importantly, and maybe more importantly, how to recover from that. I mean, there were people that jumped off buildings in the Great Depression for losing more or less comparatively. And even in this last crash, people ended their lives for losing money. And so, love to drill down on that with you some, Colin, if you'd like.
I love that because there's a lot of interviews with entrepreneurs that focus on the nuts and bolts of getting a business up and running. And I'm a fan of that. That's good stuff. But you don't really hear people talking about mindset or the mental or the psychological side nearly as much. So let's drill more into that. Because like you say, you think that's 80% of your 10xing your income and 80% of your recovery is down to the what's up here. So
that's it. That's it. No, I absolutely believe that. So let's talk about some of the strategy. And I teach this at my live events as well. In fact, if you come to my live event, and I've got one coming up December 3rd, 4th, and 5th in Orlando, which I'm so freaking excited about because I had to go live stream for the last year and a half, whatever it was. And there's no energy, I'm in front of maybe as many as 800 people, but all I've got is my videographer there with his poker face and I get no energy back. So I'm super excited to go live again. We've got hundreds of people coming. This will be a big one. But the first thing we do is a goal setting workshop. And here's why, like Napoleon Hill talks about in his book, Think and Grow Rich, you've got to have a burning desire. And to get that burning desire, you got to know what it is you want, right? How do you get anything if you don't know what it is? And then more importantly, you've got to know why you want it. And so we do this goal setting workshop on steroids, the first hour and a half of my boot camp, because that's got to be the precursor to everything. So that's one of the first things I did when I lost everything was was reassociate with what I wanted and why I wanted it. It would have been real easy for me to focus on the pain, and have, losing 50 million become my story and my identity and the pain of all that. Mm-hmm. And I had to be in, by the way, if you've had something like negative happen to you, be very cognizant that you don't let it become your identity, that right. Don't let your vehicle become your identity, because if the vehicle crashes, yes, you may fail, but you're not a failure. Okay. So very, very important distinction. And by the way, I don't call them failures. I call them seminars. Now that was a $50 million seminar, and I've had lots of seminars. That was the biggest one. But anyway, so, let me, if you'll humor me, I'll describe that goal setting process real quick, just because it's so powerful. Those are the people, I'm sure there'll be people that can't come to my event. And that's fine, but let me describe this for you. So if you can take some notes, if you're listening or watching, take some notes, and let me go through it with you real quick, because it's so freaking powerful. So what you want to do is you want to pick an hour when you have a lot of energy. You make sure you're well hydrated, drink some water. Don't do it right after a meal.
Okay.
And write down everything you could ever possibly want in life. Okay. So not just the New Year's resolutions that are forgotten by February, where you say, I'm going to lose some weight. And of course, by February, you've forgotten all that. You're going to write down everything, the big things, the little things, houses, cars, boats, jet skis, planes, motorcycles, jewelry, clothing, whatever it is, write it down. Write down how much money you're going to have in the bank in, say, 3 years. And then in 10 years, you're, in case the stuff hits the fan fund. Then write down how much cash flow you're going to have from your investments, say in 3 years and 10 years. Write down. And take the lid off your brain. Imagine that if you write it down, you're going to get it. So don't limit yourself. Private yacht, jet, whatever it is, right? Private island, write it down, because there's truly nothing you can't do, be, or have. And the simple act of writing it down triggers something in your brain called your reticular activating system. And what that is what they've described this subconscious filter, and you're not conscious of it, that subconsciously points you in the direction your brain thinks you're interested in. And it's not, again, you're not conscious of it. The greatest example of it's when you first buy a car. You never really notice them. Then you buy it, you see them everywhere. Were they there before? Of course they were. That's your reticular activating system. And that's why it's so important to write your goals down. If you're analytical, don't keep them in your head. If you're in your head, you're dead. Write them down and then reassociate with them as often as you can. So anyway, you've written down everything you could ever want. And those of you, by the way, those of you that are analytical, don't stop and analyze the answers. Just keep writing. You can always scratch them out later. Don't stop. Keep that momentum. Then you also want to write down everything you want to do in this lifetime. Maybe you want to write a book, the places you want to visit. I've got a travel vision board behind my green screen here, that I look at regularly. And so all the things you want to do, like I've got a friend that's climbing every mountain over 14,000 feet. Wow. Stuff like that. I jumped out of a perfectly good airplane a couple of years ago. I'll never freaking do it again, but it's off the list. But stuff like that, that's what you want to write down. And then also write down what you want to learn in this lifetime. So again, it's not just the stuff, it's everything you want to do, be, or have. You're creating this life plan, this bucket list, this goal list. So write down everything you want to learn. Maybe you want to learn a foreign language. If you want to learn multifamily buying apartment buildings, for God's sakes, come see me in Orlando. In fact, let me mention that. It's a 3-day event, December 3rd, 4th, and 5th. If you text multifamily to 72345 and use the code RODFRIEND, the price will be, by the time this airs, the price will be $600. You can come for $197. Use the code RODFRIEND, and it's not a sales pitch. I talk about my coaching for maybe 30 minutes out of the 3 days. Okay. The rest of the time, it's all content. In fact, I've had thousands of people come, and I've never had a complaint other than the room's too cold or the food sucked or something like that. It's never about the content. Okay. So again, text multifamily to 72345. Remember the code RODFRIEND, or you can go to multifamilybootcamp.com. And if you do, when you get to that website, go to the bottom and see the hundreds of testimonials that people have left unsolicited. All right. Anyway, so if you
write down all your goals, again, everything you want to do, everything you want to be, everything you want to learn, you're writing down what your
write
ideas
down everything
of a perfect life
you want to learn as well. Lastly, write down who you want to help. We'll do
I
more
like
for
that.
others than we'll ever do for ourselves. And again, this is the fuel. This is what, this is what gets you to get up in the morning early, stay up late, work Saturdays to grind for a few years like most people won't, so you can live the rest of your life like most people can't. Okay, so write down who you're going to help. Like I bought my parents a house here in Florida when my dad was alive, bought him a car, took him on cruises. You write down who you're going to help. All right, once you can't think of another thing, just a couple more steps. I want you to put a time limit on each goal. How long you think it's going to take you to achieve it. Put a 1, a 3, for how many years? A 1, a 3, a 5, even a 10 or a 20. Recognizing that as human beings, we will overestimate what we can do in a year and massively underestimate what we can do in 5, 10, 20 years. I'll give you an example of this. When I lived in Denver, I always knew I wanted to live on the beach. I mean, I would visualize, and there's no beach in Denver. I would visualize the palm trees and the sand and the surf. 20 years later, I built this $8 million, 10,000 square foot home on the beach, beach on one side. I had my boats on the backside. It was called a Gulf to Bay. It was a slice through an island. And that was unthinkable when I was 18. And again, I'm going to give you examples here. Please know I'm not bragging. Okay. I just want to inspire you. Okay. And so, this stuff may not even interest you, but just replace it with what does interest you.
Gotcha.
But anyway, that was unthinkable when I was 18. I made it happen. And so don't limit yourself. Okay, once you've got a time limit on each goal, pick your number one goal. I mean, that goal when you get it, like, oh my God, you know you've arrived. Now, if there's 2 or 3 that are equally exciting, just pick one. It won't matter for what we're going to do next. Then I want you to pick your top 3 one-year goals. So you got your number one goal and your top 3 one-year goals. Put those on a separate sheet of paper and leave some room in between them. Now, I'll tell you, at this point, you are ahead of 99.9% of the people on the planet that some of which may do a New Year's resolution, but again, we know what happens with those. So, but there's one more step. I need you to write down why each one of those goals is an absolute freaking must to achieve. And when you're writing down your why, use emotionally charged words. Words are very powerful. So you use words like amazing and incredible and beautiful, because words will juice you. So you might say, so I can show my kids what incredible abundance looks like, what amazing success looks like. So I can retire my husband or wife and we can live an amazing life of freedom, have the freedom to do whatever we want, whenever we want, wherever we want, bring whoever we want, whatever's going to juice you, write that down. Okay. And put one under each one. And then take it one little step further and put some pain in there if you don't achieve the goal, and make it hurt. So I don't feel like a failure. So I don't fail my kids. So I don't fail my husband or wife. So I don't live a life of regret. There was this nurse in Australia, Colin, a hospice nurse. Her name was Brownie Ware. And she might have been Irish, actually, with that name, right? Brownie. Anyway, she wrote a book. She took care of patients when they were dying, and she asked them a question: do you have any regrets? And she wrote a book about it. It's called The 5 Regrets of Dying. You know what the number one regret was? Not living the life I could have lived, living someone else's life, not doing what I know I'm capable of. Guys, I can't think of anything worse than that. So this is what prevents that from happening. So you got your positive and negative reasons why you have to achieve the goal. And the last thing is get pictures. Get pictures or make declarations. I'll give you some examples of the power of this. Jim Carrey, when he was flat broke, wrote himself the actor, the comedian, when he was flat broke, wrote himself a check for $10 million. Okay. For those of you millennials, a check is something we used to use to pay for things. Anyway, so he wrote himself this check, and he'd go up by the Hollywood sign and he would visualize cashing it. And that's how much money he made for Dumb and Dumber. I'll give you a more recent example. Demi Lovato, the singer, when she was unknown 11 years ago, posted on social media, one day I'm going to sing the national anthem at the Super Bowl. Not this last one. Go watch the Super Bowl before then. I'll give you some personal examples for me.
Sure.
Back when I was 18, I figured I had to, I was going to sell houses. So I figured I had to have a 4-door car. So I got this bone ugly Ford Granada, bench seat in the front, just a real piece of crap. But I figured I had to have that. But the guy I worked with, I was telling you about, had a couple of Corvettes, and he let me drive one. And I'm like, oh my God, this is incredible. I was like 20, and so I got a picture of a Corvette out of a magazine. I put it on the visor of that bone ugly Granada. So every time I sat in the car, it was right there in front of me. Within a year or two, I had a beautiful Corvette. I'll give you a couple more examples, but again, let me pre-frame this by saying I'm not trying to brag. I just want to inspire you. This stuff may not even interest you, but this stuff works. That's why I want to share this with you. So this is back when the TV show Magnum PI was out there. And it was a detective movie in Hawaii or series in Hawaii. Actor was Tom Selleck. And he drove this Ferrari 308. And that was the first time I'd seen an exotic. I'm like, oh my God, look at that thing. So I got a picture of that actual car, put it out of a magazine again before the internet, put on the visor of my Corvette. Within a year or two, I had a Maserati look just like it. Last example, I'm the guy that always wanted a Lamborghini. I mean, I had posters in my room, and what's interesting is when my son was 9, he collected models of exotic cars. You know, he had like 30 or 40 McLarens, Porsches, Ferraris, and he had a model of the exact same color and style Lamborghini that I ended up getting, which I wrecked. But anyway, but so get pictures. Do you put these on YouTube? Do you put these on YouTube, these videos? Let me show you something. This is my planner. It's on today. In the back of this thing, for those of you that are on iTunes can't see this, it's a big full-size planner. In the back, I've got pictures that have been in here for 20 years. I'm not exaggerating. My kids now are 30 and 26. These are pictures of my kids when they were young. These are my gratitude pictures. By the way, to manifest anything in life, you need to use gratitude. And so I start with gratitude. I even have a gratitude vision board, but these are, like I said, my gratitude pictures, kids when they were young. Then I've got pictures of the things that I wanted. So that house on the beach I was talking about looks just like this top picture. Okay, I had a 10-foot high glass like that was butt together, travertine floors. This is before I ever built it. And I lost that house and all the craziness. Now I live in a compound. I've got, 6 buildings. I've got a big main house, a 2-bedroom guest house. I've got a big media building with a video studio we built when we had to go virtual. And it's incredible compound on 2 acres on the water, because God's got a sense of humor. You could see my old house that I lost across the bay. It's literally right across the bay. Oh, wow. But look at these bottom pictures. You can see, Colin, you can see the white walls in those pictures, those 2 white stone walls. See that? Yep. That's a picture of my backyard. See the white stone wall? Isn't that freaking crazy? I mean, just the same thing. And then I've got pictures of stupid crap, like I've got a few $100,000 worth of watches. Again, stuff I thought was important at one time. The Maserati before I ever got it, the Rolls, the Bentley, all this stuff that I got that because I had pictures. So get pictures, put them around you, put them on your wall, put them on your screensaver, put them where you're going to see them. Do vision boards. And I know I've lost some of you analytical ones, but I'm here to tell you, this is how you get it done. I'm just telling you, this is,
I think the analytical people don't appreciate how powerful pictures are. And so I'm a bit of a spreadsheet nut, and I don't visualize things as much as I should. And I'm going to start printing more stuff out now. And I like the idea of getting a folder, because I'm a little bit old school. I prefer the idea of an album with photos and just having something in a PDF or something like that. So that's how
all you
wired.
do is go on Google and just research, look at pictures. And they may not even be exactly what you want, but when you see it, like, oh, that feels good. Take it to Walgreens, have it blown up, put on. If you could see my wall here, you'd see the pictures of the things that matter to me now that I'm trying to manifest, because this stuff works. I had a sign on my ceiling above my bed, which my wife hates, that said 100,000 a month. And now I've added a 0 because I've eclipsed that, times several. And again, she hates it, but it works. This stuff works. So anyway,
it helps you. No, I love that. I love your energy. I love how you see things and just drive forward for them. And I think there's a lot of people out there that love the idea of 10xing their income or starting your business or taking control of their financial future. But a lot of them never get started because maybe their fear of failure is stronger than that urge to get started. So what advice?
Let me tell you what else. Let me tell you what else slows people down. And it's limiting beliefs. When I immigrated to this country, I didn't speak English, and I got thrown into school, and I found out what bullies were for the first time. And so I got my butt kicked on a regular basis. I hadn't learned how to fight back yet. And then my mom, proud Dutch woman that she is, thought it'd be a great idea to send me to school in wooden shoes and those leather shorts that the Germans wear for Oktoberfest. And of course I got my butt kicked again for show and tell. And then the bullies would chase me home, and she'd chase them off with a fly swatter. Next day, butt kicked again. And I created this limiting belief in myself that I wasn't good enough. And a lot of people have those limiting beliefs. I'm not old enough. I'm not young enough. I don't have enough money. I'm not smart enough, analytical enough. And there's a reason that the acronym for belief systems is BS, because 99% of them are just that, BS. And so, if you have one of those, I'm going to tell you what you do is you bring it out in the daylight. You look at it with your adult rational mind. You recognize that it's BS because, it's just stuff that comes from our childhood, and and we feel like it's factual because there was an emotional occurrence that triggered it. You may not even remember what triggered it, but if you bring it into the daylight and every time it pops up, you consciously, that's the operative word, consciously look at it, it will diminish and ultimately go away. I mean, I used to be afraid to raise my hand in class, and now I speak in front of thousands of people a year, and because I had to diminish that one. That was a big one for me. So that's one thing. And then the other thing, of course, is fear. You know, people are fear of failure. I'm going to tell you, those of you listening, if fear being in the same place you are right now, a year from now, unless you freaking love where you are right now, that's what you should fear, regret. So, yeah.
I think so. Yeah, failure is not nearly as scary as you think it might be once you've experienced it a couple of times, and because you generally get more out of it.
I met the billionaire. I failed my way to success. Okay. I've actually built 27
everybody
businesses.
Has, right? Well, nearly everybody has.
Yeah. And I met the billionaire owner of Spanx, Sarah Blakely, you know, started with 5,000. I think she literally just sold it for $1 billion on women's undergarments. And I met her at a mastermind, and she told me that her dad used to ask her and her brother on about a weekly basis, what have you failed at this week? And then he'd be upset if they didn't try anything and fail. And I thought, what a fantastic question to ask your kids, not to fear failure. Anyway.
I know, as long as you do it in the right tone, you know, because fathers need to be careful what they say to daughters in particular, but sons as well. You know, I find that myself. So, I mean, would you agree with that then? Those early setbacks that they helped you experience success further down the line?
Listen, it's only a failure if you don't get the lesson or you don't get back up. Now, some people, you know, failures crush, and it's sad, but honestly, failures and setbacks are feedback. How are you going to grow and learn if you don't have that feedback? And so, like I said, I've built 27 businesses. Several have been worth tens of millions of dollars. Most are spectacular, flaming seminars. Okay, I mean, you know, failures. And so, so, you know, every entrepreneur knows they fail their way to success. They don't fear that failure. And so, if you get caught in fear, let me recognize this. Number one is that the biggest thing to mitigate fear is action. You take that first step and you move forward. That because it's counterintuitive, but action mitigates fear. And, you know, you'll get, you know, I'll tell you, in my business, in the multifamily investing business, the most successful people in this business are the ones that are analytical, and they're the hardest to get to actually take action to get started, because they have to check off every single box.
Real procrastinators, right?
Right. And so, you know, like Dr. Martin Luther King said, you take that first step in faith, and the next step will be revealed. You know, Lao Tzu, the philosopher, said the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. You've got to take action and just take that first step.
Too many people are worried about how to get to step 6 on the ladder. I don't know what to do when I'm at step 6. It doesn't matter. Right. Step 1, step 2, step 3.
That's it. That's it.
And I think networking with people has a lot to do with it, because if you're for your own little life and you're in your own bubble and you're hanging around other guys that are in their own kind of little bubble as well, and you want to do something more, you want to go that 10x, 100x, you got to start moving in different circles, right? You got to start talking to other people and getting motivated by other people.
That is another success strategy, your peer group. It's so important. Most people will default to the people they went to school with or the people they work with in their W-2, and that's a big mistake. You want to be around people that aren't afraid of your dreams or jealous of your dreams or fear of losing you because you push towards your dreams. So you have to be very proactively conscious, because, you know, you want to be in a group that thinks what you think is hard is easy. You know, like I've got my coaching program like you do. It's called my Warrior Mentorship Program, and I'll tell you something I'm super proud of. I've been teaching somewhere between 3.5 and 4 years, and my students now own over 47,000 units. And I'm super proud of that. And so in fact, I'm probably most proud of that. And it's, of course, because I spend a lot of time on mindset and psychology at my events and in my training. So they actually take action with what they learn. But like you said, you know, you don't have to see the whole road. I give examples of properties that we bought that we made like 10 million a piece on, that we had literally had hours to make a decision. We didn't know everybody involved, or a day, like 24 hours to make a decision. We didn't know everybody involved. We didn't know how it was all going to lay out, but we knew we had to move quickly. And it's the same way with anything that you want in life. You've got to actually take that first step and move forward. There's a law of the first deal in our business, Colin. I know you know about this. I'll see it with my students all the time. They'll be like, shit, I don't have a deal. It's 6 months, 8 months. And then they get a deal. And the next thing I know, I look at them, they've got 6 of them. It's like, it's like, what happened? They realize that it's not that big a deal, and then they move forward. So anyway.
And the magic happens, and the next deals just seem to float towards you,
right,
as if by magic. But have you any kind of actionable tips that people can take to go and meet those people that find something easy that they think is hard?
Yes. I mean, I've got a picture that I show of masterminds and boot camps. I never went to college, and so I've literally got a picture. I could share it on the screen if you want, but I've got a picture with my arms out, and I've got hundreds of lanyards from events around my arms. That's my education from events that I've gone through. The things they put around your neck. I've got hundreds of them, and so you just go out, and wherever there are people, go to your local real estate investor club meeting. For God's sake, come to my Orlando boot camp. There'll be hundreds of my warriors there networking, because our business, unlike flipping and wholesaling, like what you do, Colin, you can absolutely do what you do on your own. You don't do multifamily on your own. It is a team sport. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the beautiful things about it, because you don't have to know everything. You can align with somebody. If you're analytical, you align with somebody that's outgoing, and vice versa. And so, in fact, my last partner was a CPA. The partner I have now, is super, super analytical. And so I'm the mouthpiece. He does the numbers, throw him in a room with a spreadsheet and throw raw meat in once in a while, and he's happy, but that's the beautiful thing about the multifamily business, is it's a team sport, but you got to build that team. You got to network to do that team. And like I say, events like mine are a fantastic way to do that. But anywhere people meet, just, if I tell my students, if they hold still long enough, they need to know what it is you're doing. And you tell them what you're doing. And at my boot camp, we give them a sample deal package. So you can use as an example, say, hey, if you can hand it to them, say, hey, if we find a deal like this, the kind of stuff we're looking for, are always looking for partners. Let me know if you're interested. And this is how they build relationships with potential investors, for example. But yeah, as far as the tip, it's really just getting around. I mean, I've met some of my biggest investors and partners at health club, at the soccer field, at the, just things outside of business. But you just got to have a few minutes of courage, or a few seconds of courage. You just got to just be willing to start a conversation. Just say, how you doing? Why are you here? And I don't think my thing, this was really hard for me. So what I did was I had like 3 seconds of courage. I would go up to somebody and say, hi, I'm Rod Khleif. I don't think we've met. But then I actually had a note card in my back pocket with the list of questions to ask, so that I wouldn't get fumbled. Like, why are you here? What do you do for a living? Just, I had a list of questions so that I could just ask questions. And, like, Dale Carnegie in his book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. If you just ask questions and drive the conversation with questions, people think it's the greatest conversation they've ever had.
People love talking about themselves, right? You just ask people to talk about themselves, and
that's
they think you're a great conversationalist.
Exactly. And be genuinely interested in what they have to say. And when you do that, they're enamored to you, and the best salespeople know this as well. If you're selling or influencing at all, you do it through questions, and you can drive the conversation wherever you want it to go. People love the conversation, and people
should read those 2 books again. We haven't heard them mention one: Napoleon Hill's
Think and Grow Rich, and How to Win Friends.
And they're written about 80, 90 years ago, but they're absolutely timeless.
They're profound knowledge. Yeah, they're profound knowledge. They're in fact, Think and Grow Rich, frankly, is a book you should read several times a year. So yeah, I honestly, it's that profound. At least twice a year. I read it twice a year. I've actually given away thousands of copies of that book. I'm not exaggerating. Thousands. Yeah. So
Napoleon Hill's estate must be happy to have guys like you.
Well, those are profound knowledge. The Richest Man in Babylon is another one.
And these are very easy books to read, by the way. These aren't door stoppers. These are quite slim volumes. You'd read them in a couple hours.
Exactly. So peer group, pushing through fear and limiting beliefs, getting aligned on your goals. These are all success strategies. And then massive freaking action. Okay. Don't fear failure. Just take action. And that's really the bottom line. If you outwork the other people in this business, you will out succeed them. And that's
well, especially
it.
if you're outworking them and you've got all those goals laid out. You're not just running blindly and chasing every sparkly object that you see, because you can waste a lot of time, a lot of ADR weeks doing that too. But if you've got all that action aligned with your goals and your networking, that's how you do it. Now you're on the road to real change.
That's right. Let me share one other thing that I just remembered that I didn't share. It's about goals. That's really, really important. So I talked about that house that I built on the beach. Okay. I mean, this place was magnificent. I just have to, let me just describe it. I was 10,000 square foot, had a 12-foot wide waterfall from a second floor balcony into the pool. Pool was in magazines. I had a giant spiral staircase up through the middle that was all carved iron, and elevator, wine cellar. I mean, to give you I'll land the plane with this. On the second floor, I had custom